Bukayo Saka.
Bukayo Saka! That is a diamond of a goal!
Martin Odegaard.
Xhaka and Odegaard! Beauty! That is a lovely hit.
William Saliba.
Ramsey's away here. Saliba tries to get back, but he makes the challenge. No wonder he celebrates.
Martín Zubimendi.
Zubimendi first time, and the header! Brilliantly delivered by Viktor Gyokeres.
Centre forward out of that pitch. Zubimendi from the right-hand side, corner of the box, whips the ball in.
Viktor Gyokeres.
Of course, I always want to score. So yeah, to be a part of this club and to score with this kit and with this badge in front of all the supporters, I can't wait, and it will be an amazing feeling.
Arsenal Football Club finally has its man. It was a transfer saga that dragged on for most of the summer, at some points looking dead in the water. Instead, a late surge from new sporting director Andrea Berta rounded out a busy transfer window with a bang, securing one of Europe's most coveted strikers. After 3 consecutive second-place finishes, Arteta's men are chomping at the bit to get going in the 2025-26 season. This is why the Premier League trophy could return to North London for the first time in decades. This is why Arsenal's new team is so scary.
Well, I think his goals, his threat, I think he pins both centre-backs. He's a player that when you're living with the space 1 against 1, he's going to destroy you. So he's going to create a lot of space as well for us. And yeah, the moment that in any situation, there is a player there that can score a goal.
To understand why the addition of Viktor Gyokeres is so important for the Gunners, you have to grasp just how dire their striker situation has been under Arteta. When he first took over in 2019, the Spaniard inherited a squad led by a 30-year-old Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who was not only the club captain, but also the team's top scorer. Behind him was Alexandre Lacazette, who hadn't quite made the impact the club had hoped for when they signed him for big money from Lyon. Arteta tried to phase Aubameyang out of the squad because he preferred a different player profile at striker. Aubameyang didn't help his case either, with multiple disciplinary infractions. By late 2021, he was stripped of the captaincy and dropped from the squad altogether. Lacazette stepped up admirably to close out the season. However, the Frenchman's 4 league goals in 2021-22 confirmed that he wasn't going to cut it. This is where Arteta and sporting director Edu Gaspar's Arsenal first splashed the cash on a striker, signing Gabriel Jesus from Manchester City for £45 million in the summer of 2022. The Brazilian got off to a flying start in North London, but has never again matched the level of play he showed in those first few months. Jesus has struggled with injuries, never surpassing 1,500 league minutes since his debut season, and appearing less and less clinical with each passing year. The club then raised eyebrows with the signing of Kai Havertz in 2023, as he didn't appear to be a natural fit anywhere in Arteta's system, not to mention the steep £62 million price tag attached to him. Havertz's ideal position is in attacking midfield, but he was deployed all over the pitch in his debut season, eventually settling in as a makeshift number 9. While the German was certainly serviceable, there was no doubt that the bulk of the goal-scoring threat came from wide areas, namely Bukayo Saka. While his fellow academy product Eddie Nketiah proved a great impact player off the bench, no one else at the club was as reliable a scorer as starboy Saka since Aubameyang's departure. Left winger Gabriel Martinelli chipped in, as did the new club captain Martin Odegaard, but there was no way around the limitations they had up top. As versatile as Havertz was, as much as Arteta had molded his tactics around the players at his disposal, they lacked a true out-and-out number 9. This became increasingly obvious when they came up against tougher opposition. In the 2023-24 Champions League, Arsenal were routinely rescued by goal-scoring winger Leandro Trossard, while Havertz was effectively a non-factor. Relative to their most direct rival for the Premier League title, Manchester City, who, of course, enjoy the luxury of having the indomitable Erling Haaland, Arsenal's striking options looked paltry in comparison. Ahead of the 2024-25 season, the club decided to stick to their guns, and instead of recruiting any strikers, dumped their budget into left-back Riccardo Calafiori, midfielder Mikel Merino, and the permanent transfer of standout goalkeeper David Raya. This certainly had its benefits. Arsenal fortified a defense that had kept 18 clean sheets the year prior, with a remarkable plus 62 goal difference and a club record 91 Premier League goals. In 2024-25, the Gunners once again conceded the fewest Premier League goals of any team in the division. However, there were more concerning trends elsewhere in the squad. Havertz was coming into his own, but tore his hamstring by February, which ruled him out for the remainder of the season. Just one piece of a major injury crisis, but more on that later. Mikel Merino, a box-to-box midfielder by trade, filled in Havertz's stead, and despite great individual moments against Real Madrid and the like, by mid-2025, there was a gap in the squad that couldn't remain unfilled any longer. Arteta himself recognized there was little attacking threat in this team.
What I did feel, especially when we had to go behind it, that we lacked more purpose and more threat and more capacity to really go and hurt them. But we weren't consistent enough, because when we do that, we gave the ball away. Then in transition, we allowed them to run or sustain attacks. And I think we gave 17, 18 free kicks. So that stops the game constantly. So it's not a good outcome for us.
After an embarrassing FA Cup exit to Manchester United, where Arsenal took 27 shots, only landing 7 on target, Arteta struggled to stay neutral in press conferences, with fans clamoring for a new striker in the winter window.
Yeah, as you say, when you dominate a game like that, you create so many chances, it will intensify the calls for Arsenal to have an out-and-out striker, that they lack an out-and-out striker. Is that an area that you need to look at this month?
No, but I mean, we miss from various ways, from different players, and I understand, guys, but I cannot love our players more, and I very much focus in the ones that we have to perform at the highest level. That's it. The rest is not in our hands, in my hands.
Arsenal had flirted with plenty of center forwards in recent windows. Benjamin Sesko has been linked with a move to the Emirates ever since he was a teenager, and rumors around Aston Villa's Ollie Watkins or Newcastle's Alexander Isak would materialize at one point or another. But one striker, who was initially seen as a second-tier option until a monster 2024-25 campaign, emerged as the perfect choice, ticking all of Arsenal's boxes. Viktor Gyokeres enjoyed a thrilling debut season in Lisbon, with 29 goals and 10 assists in 2023-24, as Sporting Clube were crowned Portuguese champions. This output was mightily impressive, but top clubs wanted to ensure that this wasn't a fluke. After all, he had been a flop at Brighton and only got his feet under him after a move to Coventry City in the Championship. Did Gyokeres have what it takes to be a top-level striker? Well, in 2024-25, he answered that question with a resounding yes. An absurd 39 league goals certainly made a statement, but it was his performances on the European stage that made it unequivocally clear. Viktor Gyokeres is that guy. In 4 of the last 5 seasons, the Swede has outperformed his expected goals. The past 2 seasons, he's done so by 5 or more. Gyokeres is decisive in the box, a trait that Arsenal hasn't had in the squad for years now. But while Gyokeres was in the hunt for the European Golden Boot last season, Arsenal's medical staff were begging for a break. It started with Mikel Merino's shoulder injury in pre-season, rendering him unfit to make his Arsenal debut until October. Odegaard suffered an ankle injury on international duty not long after, while Timber, Martinelli, and Gabriel all missed 4 or more games. Even worse, Tierney, Havertz, Calafiori, White, and Saka all missed 12 or more games, and Tomiyasu only played 7 minutes all season due to a knee injury. Arsenal sustained the 4th most injuries of any team in the Premier League last season, which understandably affected their on-pitch performance. While they finished 2024-25 in 2nd place, Arsenal won 8 fewer games than they had the season before, while dropping 21 points from winning positions, an all-time low. When they had the chance to find reinforcements in the winter transfer window, the club was still reeling from the abrupt departure of sporting director Edu, and instead did nothing. By the time they had lined up Atletico Madrid's Andrea Berta to take over the position, it was far too late. The lack of consistency in the players available for selection no doubt hurt their chances of challenging for the Premier League title. But if there was one silver lining, it was the growth of Arsenal's talented youngsters into meaningful contributors on this team. 18-year-old Ethan Nwaneri was deployed both in midfield and attack, outperforming his expected goals by more than anyone else on the entire team. The standout has to be Miles Lewis-Skelly, who stepped up for the often injured Calafiori at left back. He finished the season with the second highest pass completion rate of any outfield player, with a team-high 90.9% of dribblers tackled without committing a single error. Lewis-Skelly kept Desiree Doué and Achraf Hakimi at bay in the Champions League semi-final, playing with a maturity far beyond his 18 years of age. One of Arsenal's first moves of the summer was signing the youngster to an extension, which will keep him tied to his boyhood club until 2030. After locking down their left back, it was time for the left-sided center back, Gabriel Magalhães, to sign a 2-year extension of his own. Before they chase after anything else, Arsenal secured what has been their biggest strength over the past few seasons, their defensive core. Now, both of these are common sense moves, but wrapping up the negotiations just a few weeks after the end of the season is new sporting director Andrea Berta saying Arsenal mean business. Berta's experience with Atletico Madrid, where over the past 12 years he has helped the club build one of the longest sustained periods of success in its history, makes him perfectly equipped for taking this Arsenal team to the next level. His talent identification skills saw him recruit era-defining talent to Madrid, such as Antoine Griezmann, Jan Oblak, and Julian Alvarez. Berta can find deals, big and small, to build out a squad ready to compete on multiple fronts, which is exactly what he's done ever since taking charge in Colney. Before taking on the mammoth task of finding a new striker, Berta sought squad depth. After all, last season's injury crisis put Arteta in a near impossible position, so quality backups had to be one of the highest priorities. Injury-prone players such as Kieran Tierney and Tomiyasu, as well as those who had fallen out of favor such as Jorginho and Thomas Partey, saw their contracts run out and were swiftly replaced on the open market. Arsenal picked up Brentford's Christian Norgard to give Arteta more options in the midfield, at the reasonable price of £12 million, before making up for their losses in defense with the £15.5 million purchase of Christian Mosquera. Both Norgard and Mosquera should fit in nicely, not only as great tactical fits, but also as more youthful options than the men they are replacing. Furthermore, Kepa Arrizabalaga arrived for £5 million in case of injury to his compatriot David Raya. But who knows? Maybe we'll get to see him play in some cup ties. The first summer signing that comes in as an automatic starter is Martín Zubimendi. The £55.8 million move for the Spaniard was initiated last summer, with anticipation building over the past year for the Gunners, who finally have their new number 6. As one of the best holding midfielders in world football, Arsenal is getting an instant upgrade in the middle of the park. Zubimendi's ability to manipulate space and initiate play from deep should free up Declan Rice to further explore the attacking side of his game. Speaking of attackers, the Gunners swooped in for Chelsea's Noni Madueke, who cost them a pretty penny at £48 million. Madueke is capable of playing on both sides of the attack, meaning he can fill in for Bukayo Saka on the right, or possibly supplant Gabriel Martinelli on the left. Although this signing may not have inspired much excitement amongst Arsenal fans, it does add quality to a front line that was fairly barren last season. And, at last, the missing piece in the puzzle. How did Arsenal finally sign Viktor Gyokeres? Well, according to The Athletic, a lot of it came down to Andrea Berta. When it came time to decide which center forward to pursue, Berta led the way. Not only did he prefer Gyokeres' profile to the likes of Šeško, but there were specific circumstances that made the Swede most desirable. For one, he's much more of a finished article than Šeško, who would command a similar price and be a developmental player to begin with. Other options like Ollie Watkins and Alexander Isak were deeply appreciated by Arteta, but ultimately deemed too costly. Even when Isak declared his intentions to leave Newcastle, the club had already decided on Gyokeres. Above all, Viktor Gyokeres wanted Arsenal. His determination to play under Mikel Arteta was evident early in negotiations, as he pushed for Sporting to honour a pact. Despite having an £87.6 million release clause in his contract, after Gyokeres' breakout 2023-24 campaign, the club had a gentleman's agreement to let the Swede leave for any offer in the region of £52 million with £8.7 million in add-ons. Not only is that a significant discount on his estimated £65.7 million transfer value, but a very feasible deal for Arsenal. The main holdup in negotiations was that Sporting didn't keep their word, instead looking for a base fee of £61 million. When Berta finally struck an agreement on the transfer fee, £55 million plus a further £8.7 million, the Portuguese giants held out for more achievable add-ons. Despite Sporting threatening Gyokeres with disciplinary action, the striker had long agreed to personal terms with the London club, and even had his agent waive his commission fee to try and facilitate the deal. Finally, on the 26th of July, the saga came to an end, and Viktor Gyokeres became a Gunner. He was met with rapturous applause on the team's preseason tour in Singapore. Arsenal finally went out on a limb to get a striker, a lethal, natural-born goal-scorer who isn't afraid to make his ambitions known, taking the legendary number 14 to honor Thierry Henry. If Eberechi joins, as rumored, this front line would become the most fearsome in the league, with an embarrassment of riches for Arteta to work with. But what do you think? Does Viktor Gyokeres take this team over the edge and make them legitimate title favorites? Could they go a step further in Europe and make history in Budapest next May? Let us know in the comments.